What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another late night in the BrewLab with me, Lone Fox, your brewmaster-in-chief. And tonight, in the BrewLab, I'm continuing to explore the entirety of the new set, and I'm picking at least one card from each rarity in each color as my favorite of said rarity and said color. And we've just finished doing blue, which means if we follow the Wooberg acronym, that the next color is going to be black. And the reason why I had to say at least is because sometimes I just cannot pick just one. There are so many good ones that I have to do some sort of honorable mentions or something like that. And in particular, black was a tough one. There's a lot of really good black rares, in particular in the rare slot. As far as mythics go, I found it quite interesting. The black cards in these cycles of cards over the last, I don't know how many sets. I'm thinking an obvious example is the Virtues. We had the black Virtue. For me, it's clearly the best one out of the cycle, and that has been the pattern for quite a few sets now, where the black version of that thing is the best one. And in this set, for once, both the Room and the Overlord seem to be underpowered compared to the other colors. And so instead of there being, to make up for that, all of the other colors have only got 3 mythics. One Overlord, 1 Room, and usually 1 creature or something. In black, there's 4. There's a mythic Room, a mythic Overlord, and a mythic creature, and let's just throw in an extra thing. And so again, even though the Overlord cycle, the black one's terrible, they made up for it by giving black an amazing additional mythic in the set. Who knows why? And if that hasn't already, made your spidey senses tingle or whatever, some of you may have already guessed, but my pick for the best mythic in black from Duskmourn has to be the Meathook Massacre 2. And this might be controversial. I don't think everybody will agree with me on this thing. But it might be just because you haven't played with it yet, and you haven't quite yet seen the potential. At first glance, it looks like an incredibly expensive sweeper, which, that is true. X, 2x. It's not just X, it's 2x. So you're going to have to throw in, and it's 4 black, so it's prohibitive also for color combinations and things. This is most probably just going to go in a purely black deck. You may be able to splash something. I mean, we've seen how people were playing Grixis and playing Invoke Despair with 4 black pips, so it's not impossible, but this is probably going to go in a very heavily black deck, and before it starts to become a good sweeper, you're going to need an obscene amount of mana. So I would not evaluate this card on that point. I would say, look, you're probably going to play 3 of these in your deck. If one is in your opening hand, just play it on turn 4 for X is 0. And then you just have this enchantment on the battlefield that continues to do what it does. And then, if you top deck one deep into the late game, when you have 8, 7, 8, 9 mana, whatever, then it starts to become also a good sweeper. So nice little flexibility, curve filler, that sort of thing. Now, the static text, the thing that it does once it's sitting on the board, there's 2 parts to it. The first one is a little bit less good, less gooder. It's still good, but whenever a creature you control dies, you may pay 3 life. If you do, return that card under your control with a finality counter on it. Of course, there's plenty of things that we want to sacrifice to get death triggers, and then the only way to protect this from getting obscenely broken is the finality counter, because then you won't be able to repeat that over and over again. The second time you sack the thing or whatever, it's going to be gone. But the pay 3 life part is what makes me a little bit... Yes, black has quite a few ways of gaining life these days. Pardon me. But I think the part, at least, that I'm most looking forward to exploit of this card is the second little bit of the text box there that says that whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, they may pay 3 life, and if they don't, return that card under your control with a finality counter on it. Now that is a cool line of text, mate. Think about it. There'll be situations when they can't pay the 3 or they die. Or they don't want to pay the 3 because they're gonna die. You know, like 3 is a lot to pay. And it's not like if they pay, they get it back. Or all it prevents from happening is that you don't get the creature. Suddenly, that 3 life, it's a lot, man. And the good thing is, if they don't pay and you do get the creature, and then they go, well, look, whatever. I'll just won't pay the 3, I'll let them get the creature, and then I'll kill it. That's a lot of extra steps for them to just deal with one of their own threats. Not only that, it also enters with a finality counter on it, so that if they do kill it, it's not like it's going to go back to their graveyard where they can reanimate it, do things with it, feed their various descend mechanic, the delirium mechanic, and all of these new graveyard shenanigans mechanics. It's gone. Finality counter means you exile it. So I think this is really, really good. I can imagine just playing this on 4 and then having a deck full of removals, and then the opponent's going to be forced into this decision over and over again. Do I pay the 3 or do I give them my good creatures? And then if I do, what does that mean for the rest of the game? Now I've got to save my removal spells, blah, blah, blah. It's just going to create a nice dimension and some cool shenanigans. I can't wait to test it out. I may be completely wrong, but currently, as far as the mythics in black go, this is the one I'm the most excited to play with. Like I said earlier, the black Overlord is the worst one in the set, for sure. On to my next one, which is the rare category, and here I really, really struggled. I had to create a whole little subsection. So first up, we've got Enduring Tenacity. This is just the actual, my favorite rare of the set for, in general, like, period. This is a freaking cool card. These enduring cards, there's one in every color that they enter as a creature, and then when they die, they re-enter as an enchantment. They're all really, really fun, but the black one is just banana town. Like, this is going to go into a lot of decks. I think I can't wait to tinker with it. I think black and white life gain, with also the white ley line, which I haven't shown in any of these videos, but we'll definitely play with during early access. Sounds like a really good deck. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. We figure out some way to gain 20 life in a turn, the opponent just loses straight away. Of course, that's like, I'm just the very beginnings of theory crafting here, but like, even just over a couple of turns, where you give this thing lifelink, or you have whenever, I mean, there's so many ways to gain little incidental bits of life, even just playing your virtue of, the black virtue, or whatever. Firing off a food token. There's so many incidental food in black. Like some sort of black life gain deck, it's there, man. I've been tinkering with one with cards that we have available right now in Standard. Like, throw this into the match. It's not even legendary. You can have multiple copies, so you can get double triggers off of it. It's a 4/3 as well, which isn't terrible. And then, when it dies, it's coming back. So now you got an enchantment that continues to do that. And it's also going to trigger all of your eerie constellation stuff when it first enters and when it dies. Dies, returns, enters the battlefield as an enchantment. So, like, this enduring little cycle is really, really cool card design, first of all. And out of all of the cards in the set that I'm the most excited to play with, colored combinations, whatever, this is like right up there in my top 3. Like, I cannot wait to play with this card, and so I just had to put this one first. But now we open this little subcategory where we already have the Bloodletter of Aclazot's Rush of Dread 1 turn kill combo. Now we have like 2 new cards from the same set that just go right into that deck. It adds like another 3 different ways in which we can like close the game out. It's freaking busted, man. Like, I think you know what I'm talking about. So here we are. This little subcategory of rares from the new set in black that are all going to immediately on day 1 go into what I think is going to be a top tier black kill you on the spot Aclazotz deck. First one goes to the Unstoppable Slasher. It's a 3-mana 2/3 with Death Touch, which is already pretty good. It's a zombie. Might be important. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they lose half their life. Round it up. Half their life. Round it up. This just needs to attack once. And, like, if you have Bloodletter in the field, good, you win. If you don't, they still lose half their life. Then, whenever it dies, if it had no counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with 2 stun counters on it. So it's not like, oh, you just have it sit there for a little while, and then you can just keep doing it. Like, it just never goes away. They have to exile it. I think, like, it's just going to be 4 of these, 4 Bloodletters, 4 Rush of Dread, and some, like, reanimation spells. And then we have, like, tutor effects that care about demons, and Aclazotz is a demon vampire. Like, it's going to be easy to find the freaking card. It's going to have more than one redundancy plans in the deck. You can play it as, like, a black aggro deck that... Oh my god, I can't freaking wait. And I have a feeling that, unfortunately, whenever it is that I'm talking about these types of cards during spoiler season, it's the ones that in a few weeks' time I'm just going to be going, oh god, no, please help me, no, not one more match against this crap. But if this just, like, supersedes the current black deck, which is, Liliana 4 times and the Bandit's Talent, and then the de facto best black deck in the format becomes this, much happier. I'd much rather play against this on turn 3 than Liliana any day of the week. You can just cut it down, you can remove it, whatever. It's going to come back with the stun counters. You got 2 more turns to think of a solution. Regardless, phenomenal design, great artwork, fits into a deck on day 1. Cannot wait to play Unstoppable Slasher. And card 2 in this little subcategory, of course, is Grievous Wounds, which says Enchant Player, so it's kind of like a curse. Enchant Player can't gain life, first of all. And then whenever Enchanted Player is dealt damage, they lose half their life rounded up. So, there we go. Now you have another, maybe you won't play a full playset of these at 5 mana, but maybe 2 or 3 in your Aclazotz deck. Now you have another way of just, Aclazotz on 4, play this on turn 5, swing with the Aclazotz, they lose the game. If you don't have the, because Rush of Dread is also 5 mana, right? So, now instead of needing to set up that perfect turn where you go turn 5 and you also have the Rush of Dread and your Aclazotz survives, now you have potentially up to 8 cards in the deck that you can have for turn 5 that will also obtain the same exact effect. So it really looks like they're pushing this thing, right? I can't wait to freaking try and see if it's good. It's so far, it's already pretty good. I think it could actually get really good, especially considering there's a tutor, which I just didn't put in this list because there was too many good black rares, but yowza. Be warned. Next up, uncommons. Valgavoth's Faithful. 1 mana for a 1/1 human cleric. Why you picked this Lone Fox? This looks terrible. For 4 mana, instant speed, sack it, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Sorry. Then it's activate only as a sorcery. Of course, they had to ruin it with that line of text. It would have been not uncommon, I think, if it was at any point. But, you put this on the board. Opponent's like, whatever. Leave it there for a while. They don't want to waste their removal spell on this thing. But it's just, again, redundancy for some of these things. You can have this be exactly in the deck I was just talking about. They kill your Aclazotz, pay 4 mana, bring it back. It's a 4 mana reanimation spell, which is rare, stapled onto a 1/1 body, which can be used for sack fodder, and all, when you sack it, because it sacks itself to do the thing, you get other triggers to happen. So you may be able to tell from my voice, I have had a bit of a flu, so apologies for any sort of weird sniffing noises and whatnot. There's nothing I can do about it. I've been dripping, almost feels like allergies, which is weird. I don't have allergies, but like just itchy eyes and snotty nose last 3 days. I'm almost on the mend. But yeah, this is definitely my pick for the best uncommon on the set as far as black is concerned. I can't wait to play with it. It's going to just add another 4 reanimation spells into your Reanimator X deck. That you don't need to sacrifice, you know, a 5-drop slot, because most of them are like, you know, your Cruelty of Gixes, your Lich Knight's Conquest, they're all 5 mana spells. Usually you don't want like 8 5 mana spells. Maybe you'd rather have a little chump blocker for the early game. And then, like, I can imagine there's a black room that brings everything back. I think Graveyard Shenanigans, I mean, it's a set with Delirium. And I think that's also why there's so much good graveyard hate in the set and in the last couple, because it's really looking like more and more we're just going to have a lot of really broken graveyard shenanigans. I don't think this is necessarily like busted, but 1 mana and then pay 3 for reanimate anything to the battlefield. No downsides except for sorcery speed. It's not really a downside. I think that's a really, really good card. Next up, had to have another one. Again, like, sorry, I was supposed to pick one each, but sometimes I just can't help myself. This is probably better. Let's just say the little 1/1 cleric we just saw is actually the honorable mention. This is actually my favorite uncommon of the set. 2 mana for an enchantment with flash. When it enters, target creature and opponent control gets -3/-3. Finally, something like this, like that's at instant speed, right? You can deal with the freaking glissas of the meta, these 3 toughness things that are really annoying. But it doesn't end there, right? It sits on the board, and now it says creatures your opponent control can be the target of spells or abilities as though they didn't have hexproof, and ward abilities of those creatures don't trigger. What? This is freaking epic. Like, might end up just being a sideboard piece, right? There's not that many, like, really frustrating ward things to deal with right now, but you never know. But that hexproof thing as well, like this, I think this is just actually a genuinely busted little uncommon here. Where exactly it's going to fit in, I'm not sure, but you can't, you know, say anything bad about that effect. Like, oh look, I have hexproof, oh look, I have ward. No, you don't. You got nowhere to run, boy. I think this is, yeah, maybe a little bit of a sleeper. It was one of the earlier spoilers. It's been around for a while. It's been talked about everywhere, but I don't think anyone's quite as hyped about it as I am. Which brings us to our commons. And here, it was actually very easy. There wasn't so many good black commons. I picked Fear of the Lost Teeth because there seems to be some kind of deck in black which wants you to sacrifice enchantments. Ta-da! We have ourselves a 1 mana enchantment creature, so it triggers all your eerie stuff and yada yada yada, and then when it dies it deals 1 damage to your opponent and you gain 1 life. That's just nice, clean, simple little design. 1/1, 1 damage, 1 life, 1 mana value, you know, bam bam boom. It's an enchantment. It's gonna slot right into all of these decks that want to trigger eerie and whatnot on day 1. I can guarantee you this is going to go into a bunch of decks. It's going to be like everywhere. It's just a nice little gel glue card, simple little 1-drop that gets the ball going in all your black X eerie decks for the rest of the time that we'll be playing with the set. Mark my words. And that is going to be it for this particular video. We've just finished running through the black cards, which means we've got red to get to for the next video, and there are some real doozies. I cannot wait to talk about them, so I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you all so much for watching. Until then, this is Lone Fox from the BrewLab, signing out. Peace, y'all.